It's crazy to sit here and think that Overwatch is approaching 6 years old pretty soon. I remember when the game first came out and everyone was calling it the Call of Duty killer, like they do with every first-person shooter. But taking a look at what the game was, it was much more than your run-of-the-mill first-person shooter. Each character had his own abilities and playstyles, so if you came into the game thinking you could jump straight into it after playing a Call of Duty match, well, you'd be in for a rude awakening. I recently went back to Overwatch a couple days ago just to see what I've missed and what they added, and this kind of sparked the idea of this video. So today we will be revisiting Overwatch almost 6 years later and kind of reminiscing its history. But before we start, if you're new here and you enjoy my content, why not take the time to subscribe to my channel so you can be up to date whenever I upload. Anyways, my name is Quasi and this is just a game. So all of the clips shown in this video was taken from my PS5. From what I can tell, the performance does look a little better, but I just thought I'd just point that out. So the last time I played Overwatch, it was during season 16. And right now we're on season 27, so you can tell it's been a while. And on the topic of seasons, I think this is one of the best features Overwatch implemented. I find it crazy to believe that at a certain point in time, all we used to do was play quick games before seasons were introduced. The one thing that bothered me about the game was that there was nothing really to grind for, aside for your level, which doesn't really mean anything in the long run. The game wasn't like Call of Duty where you can grind for camos and challenges, you simply just play quick play and leveled up. Of course, it wasn't until they introduced seasons where we had the opportunity to rise the ranks and earn points to purchase golden guns for our favorite characters. It's such a shame to see that they never added any other prizes or rewards, it's just the same things we had back then when I used to play. Overall, the addition of seasons was pretty impactful, but it did hold a lot of problems. Overwatch in the beginning was a pretty friendly community where people were always willing to team up, and typically people would be in voice chat working together, but there was a point where people just began to get really toxic. One of the biggest concepts of Overwatch is teamwork. No matter how good you are at the game, it's pretty hard to win a match if your teammates aren't pulling their weight. I feel like in Overwatch it's really hard to carry because there's only so much you can do as your role. So with that being said, leaving the game really hurts your team because since it's competitive, other players won't come and take your place. Almost 9 times out of 10, a team with 5 players will completely get stomped by a team with 6. With all this in mind, people used to get really toxic. Many times, I had people threaten to quit the match if somebody didn't play a specific hero. Of course, Blizzard did step up by giving huge penalties and potential bans for people who quit a certain amount of time, but it would just get more toxic where people, instead of quitting, they would just play a hero the team didn't need and just throw the game. Coming to Overwatch now, it seems that's not much of an issue. I got a chance to play all my placement matches, and out of the 10 matches, I only had 2 games where one of my teammates quit. And to be honest, we probably would have still lost even if they stayed. One thing I did notice is that in almost all my matches, nobody was communicating, which I find strange because I vividly remember people being really vocal when I used to play. Overall, I can say the experience is a little better. I did notice a role lock option for competitive where you lock into playing a certain role. This is interesting. I could see the benefits, but I can only see how terrible of an idea it is. However, I didn't really touch this option. I just stayed with the traditional style of gameplay. So now I want to switch the topic to the hero. So I've noticed there's been a few heroes added since I last played. Before I stopped playing though, the newest hero was Baptiste, who I never really got into, but since then we have a total of 2 more heroes added with Echo and Sigma. I think that Blizzard is done adding new characters because I believe they were adding like 2 new characters every year. However, Echo was added on April 14th of 2020, which was over a year ago, and we haven't seen a hero since. This might be the fact that the team is working on Overwatch 2, so probably we won't be seeing any more heroes, but who knows. The one thing I do love about the game is the variety of heroes and how each of them give you a different gameplay style. Some heroes take a lot of skills to master, while others are really quite easy to use. My favorite is Mora, which is probably what majority of this gameplay will consist of, because personally I like playing hero because nobody else does. But Mora can also do a decent amount of damage without being really super accurate. So she really hits that sweet spot. Back in the days, I used to really use Soldier 76, who I think that most new players gravitate toward because he has like a Call of Duty kind of gameplay style. I mean, the dude really has an aimbot for his ultimate. Overall, I personally think there's something for everyone. You have high skilled characters like Doomfist, which require you to combo skills together in order to take out enemies, or highly accurate heroes like Widowmaker and Hanzo, who rely on pinpoint accuracy. I think Overwatch really puts an emphasis on mastering one hero, because you get some people who can use a bunch of heroes, but they can't really use one hero to his full potential. But at the same time, you don't want a one-trick pony where you can only use one hero, and if someone else picks that hero, you're completely screwed. So from experience, I say be good with at least one hero in each category. And you would think that since the game's been out for 5 years that everybody knows this, but literally in my matches, I've seen people try to do DPS damage with Mercy instead of healing. So it really just goes back to the toxicity point I mentioned earlier, but also like I said, this only happened in a small portion of my matches. So after coming back to the game, I also wanted to see what was new besides the heroes. The first thing I noticed was that people don't really play quick play anymore. When I tried to queue up for a match, I was literally in queue for like 20 minutes and it still didn't put me in a match. I had a feeling that this would happen eventually because there's like almost no incentive to play quick play. So it was only a matter of time before the entire mode was going to be dead. I do like how they added a training mode to the game where you can try out new heroes and abilities in a practice mode. This wasn't there in the game when I used to play it, but however, I believe it was a PC exclusive mode called the PTR. It's cool that they added it to the console version. Of course, with this mode, I tested out Sigma and Echo, and I'll say they are pretty good heroes, but I think I need more time in order to get a general idea of, what their playstyles are. I also noticed for some odd reason they put googly eyes on every single character. I have no idea what this was at first. I thought maybe I had a pirated version of Overwatch, but I think it's some sort of event. And lastly, when I first logged in, I generally thought that in these past 2 years where I didn't play the game, Blizzard would welcome me with like 3 or 4 loot boxes, but instead, I was welcomed to a big fat 0 in my armory. I think I've gotten so much used to Genshin Impact, where they like shower you with a bunch of wishes and gems, well, at least in the beginning of the game, to the point where if I was to leave the game for a couple months, I would be guaranteed to come back with a few wishes. It's a shame that Overwatch doesn't do the same thing, but to their defense, the loot boxes are just cosmetic only. And on the topic of loot boxes, I kind of like Overwatch's model. I think they have a pity system. Basically how it should work is after you open a certain amount of boxes, you're guaranteed a legendary item. Also, when you open a loot box, you can also get coins, and with these coins you can buy any skin you want. I like this, but the only issue is that you can only get coins from the loot boxes, not gameplay. Also, with event skins, once the event is over, you can't buy the skin anymore. I personally hated this because when I came back to the game, there was some pretty cool skins I couldn't buy because I missed the event. But overall, the loot box system seems to be exactly the same. Nothing really seemed to change. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but this is where we stand at the point. So I think the coolest thing about Overwatch is the lore behind the characters. I won't sit there and summarize the entire Overwatch lore, and to be honest, I'm not really caught up to what's been going on. But what I can say is that the little animated shorts that they have on their YouTube channel are pretty awesome. Looking at all the videos, the shorts are clearly the most popular series, and I think with these shorts, it gives the characters way more life when playing them in game. Also, I like the little character interactions too. I honestly think this is the reason why I was so invested in Overwatch. I remember I used to watch all those old Overwatch channels like Nico, Force Gaming, and Overwatch Central. So it's a shame to see that majority of these channels I used to subscribe to either completely stop uploading Overwatch or just completely stop uploading altogether. But even though those content creators stopped uploading, the Overwatch community is still as strong as ever, and it's still one of the top games streamed on Twitch. But with all the positives comes a little controversy. So Overwatch's cast of characters are really diverse. I like how they don't really try to force diversity or completely revolve a character's personality around their diversity or orientation. Everything just seems natural, but I remember the biggest issue people had was the way they represented the female characters. Now, I've already made a video revolving around sexism in gaming, so I'm not going to go into much detail about my opinion, so let's just talk about the controversies. So the biggest one I remember is the Tracer butt pose. This one to me was funny because I didn't even notice it at first. Apparently the cover girl Tracer had a victory pose that positioned herself in a way where her backside was pointing toward the audience. I don't know if it was a bunch of people, but I'm under the impression that it was a small amount of people, but regardless, people were upset. The claim was that the pose didn't really appeal to Tracer's personality. People were saying that the pose was, in a way, too sexual for Tracer. Even though a vast majority of players didn't care, the reaction gained enough traction that it forced Blizzard into a corner. Eventually, Blizzard removed the pose and replaced it with a different one. In my opinion, looking back at it, it's kind of understandable why Blizzard did it and where they're coming from. 2016 was the era where we saw a rise in cancel culture, so the amount of pressure that Blizzard had really was understandable. But I personally never really saw the pose as sexual, and I'm not going to assume that many people didn't either, but given the time, there was a bunch of, let's just say, adult pictures and videos of Overwatch all over the place. I think during this time, Overwatch was the #1 search item on the hub, so I can kind of understand where the backlash was coming from, but I don't really think it was warranted. But I think the most recent controversy that I remember was during the Chinese New Year event. So there's this character in the game by the name of Mei, who I think is the game's only Chinese character, so the event kind of revolved around her. So Blizzard released a skin that put Mei in a skin-tight traditional outfit. So what was the big deal? Well, Mei is on the chubby side of the spectrum, so a lot of people felt like Blizzard reduced her player model size, which kind of took away from her representation. Now again, this wasn't that big of a deal, but the backlash did force Blizzard to a corner. At first, they claimed that it was a bug that made Mei appear slimmer, but no one was really buying it. However, what made the situation different was that even though Blizzard changed the design, it just made people more angry because people felt like Blizzard did this to please a PC culture. Fans also felt like the people complaining about Mei's design didn't even play Overwatch and just wanted something to complain about. In my opinion, I think Blizzard was trying to emphasize that what Mei was wearing was skin tight, so therefore that's what the model was. And I honestly don't think it's that much of a big deal. In my opinion, if you want a chunkier Mei, then just don't use the skin. And plus, the game is in first person, so you can't really see the skin majority of your gameplay. But again, I have to make it clear, it's my opinion, so please don't cancel me. So my return to Overwatch wasn't all too much different. The game is relatively the same, and that's probably due to the team working on Overwatch 2. I'm really not that big of a fan of the two new heroes, but I think I'm going to give them more of a try this week and get a general idea of what they're like. Competitive is also relatively the same. They did add roll-up, but I don't think I'm going to really plan on playing that anytime soon. And with that all being said, I still feel like Overwatch is a pretty solid game in 2021. I do see myself playing it more often, and if you took a break from the game in like the past year, I say come back and give it another try. Anyways, now I pass the question on to you. What's your opinion on Overwatch? Were you part of the big hype train when the game first came out, and do you still play it today? I would love to know in the comment section down below. Also, like I said earlier, if you're new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe, and if you're already subscribed, don't be shy, hit the notification bell. Anyways, my name is Quasi, and this was just a game.